Welcome to Four Questions. Four Questions is proudly brought to you by Blackmore Four, where we have the opportunity to engage in meaningful conversation and debate with inspirational leaders across various industries. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Sarah Dearden, UK Regional Product Officer for Reapit. Now, Sarah is a recognized business leader with over 25 years in the software industry. She is well versed with building new teams and providing strategic direction for the longevity of the business. Today, we'll be probing Sarah on her thoughts around effective leadership. Sarah, welcome.
Hi, Marjana. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here. Are you ready?
Good. Yeah, all ready.
All right. So your four questions go like this. Question one, Sarah, what have you personally identified as effective leadership skills?
Great question, Marjana. I think I've learned as I've progressed through my career that leaders are more effective when they're human, when they're authentic and humble, and they're open about limitations. So I think by that, I mean, it's okay not to have the answer to everything and be open about that when you're leading a team. A team needs to be diverse and there needs to be a mix of different experience, opinions, and challenges from that team to really make that team progress and be effective and high performing.
Absolutely. And I think it's also more relatable when you feel like your colleague, your leader is human. They make mistakes, they admit they don't have all the answers. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about how you approach those gaps and those mistakes that really makes a difference in my experience, and how you work together to overcome those challenges.
There's definitely been, I think, sort of a trend towards humanizing leadership as opposed to in the past, where leaders were almost seen as these, I don't know, sort of unreachable, untouchable models of what leadership should look like. It's very different today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a welcome change, in my opinion.
Oh, breath of fresh air, absolutely. Yeah. Question two. What has been your biggest obstacle when identifying leadership requirements of a particular situation?
That's a great question, Marjana. I think the biggest challenge I think that a leader can overcome when they're working within a new team, whether that's with a peer group or a team they're leading, is where there's a lack of transparency and trust. I talk a lot about transparency, predictability, repeatability in the work that I do. And I think you need to have a team that trusts you enough to be open and transparent about where there are challenges and opportunities to improve so that you can really become effective.
Yeah, I've also noticed as well leaders that are more evasive. And I know, typically it's in the best interest of the business to keep confidential things confidential, but it creates so much angst in their employees. If there's a lack of transparency or communication, it breeds so much sort of anxiety and contempt. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you can be open about what you're doing and why you're doing those things in the way that you're doing them, then you do two things. You build confidence in the teams that you're working with and across the business, but you also give the opportunity to provide feedback and insights. Going back to the previous question, there's always another opinion that can be considered. So I think being transparent is critical because it builds confidence in your ability to deliver against whatever objective you're focused on.
A lot of what you're saying actually sounds like emotional intelligence. If we think about transparency, that self-awareness, that honesty, being human, it's a lot of emotional intelligence in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've got lots of facts and data that help you drive and lead a team and an area of business. But you also need to temper that with the subjective view as well, and really understand how people are feeling and thinking about what it is you're trying to achieve. Because the biggest thing to succeed, I think, is bringing people on a journey with you. And I always talk about it's people that make great things happen, not process. And you've got to be really mindful of that, I think.
So I'm going to bring a bit of a personal story. I've got a son who's got some learning difficulties. And obviously, as parents, we worry about his future in the world of work. And I said to my husband the other day, I said, you know what? He's got amazing people skills, and he really does. I know I'm his mum. Number one fan. But I think it's so important. And I'm not saying one thing is more important than the other. Obviously, capability and your capacity and your skills to do something is very important. But your people skills, I think that is what takes you far. And I said to my husband, because he was so worried, how's he going to function in business, or if he even chooses to go there. But yeah, your people skills, I think it's so important. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, because you need to be able to inspire and motivate teams to be able to do a good job for you when they work within your team, but you also need to build that confidence with your peer group and the wider business. And going back to the previous point about being human, everybody's human, and to how you need to, I think you need to understand what makes people tick so that you can really engage with them on the right level, and drive to a positive outcome for sure. So I think, I'd always stand by that people skills piece being really, really important.
Yeah, amazing. Right. Oh, I hope I haven't sort of given anything away here, but let's just pick your brain and see. Number 3, what leadership skills do you value in your peers?
I think I would say values I value are or character traits I value when we've got a team that's open, they're open to change, they're open to be transparent about challenges and areas that need focus. I put a lot of value on integrity as well, and teamwork. I think diversity came up in our previous question just now, and I think having a different mix of experience and discipline within a team really drives some really positive outcomes. So I think diversity is really important, and I think the final thing would be for teams that I work within, but also teams that I lead, having a team that will challenge you in a respectful way, obviously, but being able to feel like I can challenge, but also that the team can challenge me as well. Because going back to the previous point, there's always a different opinion to consider, and you need to make sure that you've thought about everything when you drive towards an objective.
And I think it's important for a leader to also be receptive to being challenged, because
Absolutely.
A lot aren't. A lot don't want to be questioned or challenged. It's uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And some of the best leaders that I've worked for are actually the ones that appreciate the challenge and are open to that and engage their teams in that way.
Right. Question 4. Are you ready?
As I'll ever be, Marjana.
Okay, so if you watch 4 Questions, you'll know that we have something called a bingo buzz question, where our guest has no idea what we're going to ask, and we're just going to throw them with this really challenging question. I'm kidding, Sarah. Right. Your bingo buzz question goes like this. Question 4. Is creativity critical in leadership?
It depends on the type of leader that you are and the type of problem you're trying to solve and the type of business that you work in, I think would be my summary. So there are other people that I work with day to day and in previous roles that I would say are a lot more creative than me. And I think part of being a good leader is understanding where your weak spots are and hiring a team around you that can help fill those gaps, right? So for it depends on the business. I think for different roles probably it's critical, but for others probably not so. So I think it would depend on what the business need is, what the objective is you're trying to drive towards, what the team profile looks like. But I think if there's a gap in that space, it can be easily filled with hiring the right people around you to fulfill it.
And that's the magic that you've just said. Leadership is not a one-person thing.
No.
It's a team sport. So where you're lacking, whether it be creativity or anything else, it's about surrounding yourself with those skills to pursue the objective.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk a lot about, when you want to bake a cake or make something really delicious, you don't just, the cake analogy, you don't just buy 6 boxes of eggs. You need a bit of eggs, a bit of flour, sugar, whatever else you're going to include in there. That's what makes something really nice and delicious at the end of the process. So diversity is critical, I think.
I like that. Right. So chocolate cakes and effective leadership. Love having you on 4 Questions, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time. And we hope to host you again very soon.
Thank you so much, Marjana. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.